Okay, you ready?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember how we start these ones.
Well, it is a complex dance of you saying things and then welcome to The Strategist, episode 1848G. My name is Corey Hogan.
You know what? We should have done a recording like what we do with the You the People ones, where we write a little script.
Your name is Stephen Carter. Not with us tonight is Zain or Annalise.
Two hosts.
Useless. And yet no hosts.
Useless.
Yeah. Strange, that one, huh?
Standard Carter and Hogan.
So how are you doing? It's good to see you in another hotel.
I'm in another hotel. This is back to back, you and me, by the way.
I know.
This is starting to turn into a trend.
Only the people who spend $6 know that, though, right?
That's right. That's right. We gave them their episode.
You know, in our defense, we knew that Zain was a flake, and we did ask the Liberal leadership contenders to come and host this podcast, and they didn't.
What I didn't understand that none of them. I mean, Frank Baseless is getting no media at all. One would think that this has to count as some media.
He could have had the strategist bump. Didn't do it.
Yeah. Do you remember that time we did the Liberal strategy and then they won?
Actually, that was a really good episode. You know, we often, we're not shy about pumping our own tires, but I think that might have been, we actually, we commissioned polling for that.
I know.
Do you remember?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We had private polling.
Yeah.
That told us a bit.
This is before we had people to pay us.
No, that was the unlimited joke budget. That was just my money.
Was that your budget money that paid for that?
I don't know. It might have been yours. I'm not sure.
I paid for one of the live shows one time. That I remember.
You did. You bankrolled a live show. Yeah. That was nice of you.
That was back when we didn't think we'd draw an audience.
Yeah. Well,
fools we were.
We were kind of, we were young. We were naive. Like our third episode was a live show. So we had that going on.
And we were arrogant then.
Oh, man.
I wish we could go back to those days.
We can, bud. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
We can live it in. Hey, so no Zain. Perfect opportunity to talk about Knothead and Enchi, but also maybe just Alberta in general. You want to talk about Alberta?
I don't know what's going on.
A few things in Alberta. You're not even in Alberta right now.
I'm not even in Alberta. I'm in British Columbia right now. Sitting in another hotel room, doing video for the masses with no light.
Yeah, we can see that. Well, we can half see that.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad.
Okay, so a few things have been going on in Alberta, but I think the one that we need to anchor this conversation around, because we've talked a lot about Danielle Smith and her approach to U.S. politics. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we won't.
Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. We're not making any promises to these people.
Absolutely.
These people don't pay us. Fuck all.
Promises are for people who give us $6 a month. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I want to skip past that right now, though, and go to what is, I think, maybe one of the bigger stories in Alberta politics, at least because of its potential. You know, we live in a world where people tend to throw around rhetoric like this could bring down a government, you know, the divine analogy. This is a government in Saskatchewan where they basically all went to jail. Like these things get thrown around. And most of the time you just kind of roll your eyes and, you know, do one of those jerk off motions if you're Stephen. But,
I hate the everybody calling for everybody's resignation all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Makes me crazy.
You hate it.
I hate it.
You hate the heated rrhetoric of like, this is it.
This is the end of the government. They are completely without any morality. I hate that.
Because usually it's not the end of the government.
No.
Right? But why don't we get to the actual issue here? Or at least throw it on the table.
Why don't I do this? Hang on. Hey, Corey, will you set that up for us? That's a Zain Veljiism.
Sure. Well, look, I mean, the basic allegation, the summary of it is this. It is that the government of Alberta has been directing money towards people who have been doing favors for the government of Alberta. I think I can summarize it as simple as that.
Hey,
and the value
Can you do me a favor, buddy, and make sure we don't get sued, okay?
Just make sure we don't get sued. So that's the allegation.
Okay,
right?
Thank you.
And this allegation is in many ways unspooled in a letter from former CEO of Alberta Health Services, Athana Metsalopoulos, who is a former colleague of mine, right? Worked with her at the government of Alberta. And many former colleagues of mine are involved in this story in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know if I want to get into like the specific details here, right? But
that's good. We're not detail people.
That's,
It's
it's
not called
actually great cover.
yeah,
It's great cover for not knowing
it's
any of
not
the
called
details.
the detail guys.
That's right.
No, no. This is the strategists.
It's about $500 million, though, is suggested in contracts for private surgeries, right? Being directed towards people who have shown favor to the government. And in fact, it is a business leader who is tied to the Turkish Tylenol mini scandal here in Alberta. That's at the center of it. Yeah, I mean, maybe
not a mini scandal, a legitimate scandal, $75 million for a product that was really never received and never used.
Well, look, we can get into the definition of scandal. I mean, I think it's a bit of an outrage that the cost per dose was so expensive, and we ordered more doses than we could possibly need as a province, and we ordered it in a way that it wouldn't come until after we needed it. All of that, I believe. I mean, we actually covered that in real time on this podcast. This wasn't even like after the fact saying how crazy this was.
Yep.
We said it at the time. But there was never the suggestion at the time that money was like flowing in ways that were improper. I guess that's what I'm trying to say when I say mini scandal.
Well, there's no at the time.
Yeah. Now there's a suggestion, or at least there's the insinuation out there that that money is flowing in ways that are improper, because this is, the heart of it is this skybox where you can watch hockey games from that people are invited to and all that. I don't really want to get into like the very specific things, mostly because the Premier has already threatened to sue people.
Yeah.
You were alluding to that.
Premier Smith, if you're listening, our good friend Carrie Tate is who you're supposed to sue, not Corey and I. Corey and I are approaching this, in fact, as though Premier Smith is innocent, mostly to avoid litigation.
Well, look, I actually think that's a pretty good frame, because we only know what we know. We only see what's in the media here. But the long story short is all of these allegations are floating around, other conversations around the side as to what this might potentially mean. But after many days of silence, where even the usually reliable boosters, shall we say, at Post Media were giving the gears to the Premier and saying, what is this? What does this mean? And you're right, Carrie Tate broke the story in the Globe and Mail. Credit where credit's due. The Premier released a statement on Twitter, on X, on Saturday. And it was an interesting statement. I mean, I've not read statements like this in a while. How can I say this? Like, we were talking a little bit about this before here. Again, we're working from the frame, Premier innocent. Does not actually inspire a lot of confidence that is the case, right? Like, some of the word choices are crazy. And so this is sort of what
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
Don't get us sued.
I know. I'm trying to walk a line.
Walk a line, brother. Walk the line.
But I gotta say,
I have to teach you how to do this.
Yeah, So the line in it. Maybe I'll just very quickly read. You know what? It's not long enough that I can't read it. So let me read it.
Read it out loud.
I'll skip over some.
Show us your reading proficiency.
Yeah, I have read various media stories containing allegations regarding the procurement and contracting processes of AHS. That's Alberta Health Services. They are troubling allegations, and they should be reviewed as quickly as possible. To that end, I will be writing the Auditor General, Doug Wiley, to ask for an expedited review and his findings on the issue. I have also directed my officials to ensure that any request for information from Mr. Wiley or his office is dealt with on a fully transparent and expedited basis. We need to get to the bottom of this issue quickly to identify any potential wrongdoing, correct it, address it appropriately. Okay, so far so good, right? Here's where it starts to get a little bit stranger, right? I have also asked that AHS's internal reviews be completed as quickly as possible and delivered directly to me so we can study the results and make improvements or adjustments to these processes. Until these findings are delivered, AHS has paused the contracting of surgical facilities under review. And here's where it gets strangest still. As Premier, I was not involved in any wrongdoing. Any insinuation to the contrary is false, baseless, and defamatory. It then goes on to say basically, hey, I like trying to change AHS and deliver quality, timely healthcare. That's my goal. I'm not going to bother going into that last paragraph. That's, in my opinion, boilerplate. But two things, which I kind of paused on, but let's really call them out.
Yeah.
One is, this is really serious.
Very
serious. I've asked for the review to come directly to me.
Yeah.
Right?
I got to see it first.
Gotta see this review. Gotta see this review. Send it to me.
Send me an index so I can see where my name is mentioned.
Yeah. Exactly. And the other is, as Premier, I was not involved in any wrongdoing. It doesn't say there was no wrongdoing.
Right.
It doesn't say even I was unaware of any wrongdoing. It's I was not involved in any wrongdoing. And then any insinuation, I mean, this is like, especially for a public figure, knowing where the bar is on this.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Can you
Any
imagine
insinuation is false, baseless, and defamatory.
how is she going to sue I mean, thank God we're taking the position that she's innocent, because she's going to sue everybody if she's worried about the defamatory statements that have been made so far, because this is one of those scandals that, money is not going in the direction that it's supposed to go and being directed to spend money by the government of Alberta to AHS. I mean,
well, and the suggestion is that her chief of staff at the time was at the heart of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which Naheed Nenshi and the Alberta NDP, when they were going against this, railing against this, said effectively either she knew and that's a very bad thing, or she didn't and that's a certain level of incompetence. I'm paraphrasing Nenshi at this point, right?
Yeah.
But, the insinuation thing is pretty wild too. Like, that's an interesting bar. That's an interesting interpretation. But okay, so that's all on the table now.
Right.
Let's talk strategy.
Oh, strategy.
Okay. First thing, I have my thoughts. I want to get yours first. How does a statement like this get written?
Oh,
you
my
go
friend.
And then I'll go. You go and then I go.
I had so many scandals. I had so many.
You were at least a few scandals.
Well, in fairness, I was not the biggest ones. I mean, if you recall, we had the No Meat Committee. Do you remember
the No Meat Committee?
The No Meat Committee, for those just joining us, was in 2011, 2010, when a committee for the elections, I believe, was supposed to meet every month, and every MLA would get a $1,000 stipend for attending those meetings. Unfortunately, the meetings never occurred. Fortunately, the money did. And
everybody got paid.
Everybody got paid, baby.
But maybe not the scandal it sounds like, because everybody got the same number of committee appointments, right?
Right.
So people were paid based on committee assignments, but the reality was
it was just a top up. It was just a top up on pay. Nonetheless, we did have to write a similar type of statement that said, we had to give all the money back. We said we were going to give back all the money, and that was our way out of it. But the point is, everybody's hands on deck when you're writing that statement. You're writing that statement with the input of lawyers. You're writing that statement with the input of the government. You're making sure that everybody's covered off so that you're not sounding like you have committed a fraud. Because if you sound like you've committed a fraud, I'll tell you something, the next call is to the police, right? Yeah. And the police come in and they knock on your door. We didn't commit a fraud. We just took some money that we weren't entitled to. That was important. That was maybe the phrasing on that was a little
off. That was not great.
But I think you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. And it was interesting because on that No Meat Committee, MLAs from all parties were caught up in it. Like Raj Sherman and David Swan were both on it for the Liberals. They both wrote checks back as a result. But, realistically, it was just part of their MLA salary. It was just structured in such a way that committee meetings were a separate line. But it was a big thing. It was a huge thing in Alberta. It became a scandal. It really is the moment where Alison Redford went from will she get 87 out of 87 seats to will she win this election, which, I mean, both you and I remember very well.
Yeah.
We were running different campaigns.
It was polling so badly that when we presented the polling findings to caucus, they said it was a push poll.
Caucus is, kings of denial in my experience.
It was an IVR, so I think they meant IVR, and they just thought it was a push button.
Yeah.
And they don't know what a push poll is.
I mean, that's really
your
possible.
Profession is politics. Why would you know that?
Okay. Can you said something really interesting, because you talked about like lawyers and communicators in the room. Can I say, in my experience in government and in politics, which is, not insignificant, I've been here for a few of those statements myself. There is a difference between a statement written by communicators run by lawyers and a statement written by lawyers run by communicators. But also, if it's not that serious, it tends to be the communicators take first pen. And when it's deathly serious, the lawyers take the first pen.
So
this feels to me like a lawyers run by communicators statement.
Absolutely. The lawyer wrote this first and made sure that the deniability was in there. We wouldn't have put that in.
Yeah.
we wouldn't have put that in because it implies a certain amount of guilt, a certain amount.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially when you parse the statement and you kind of go, hang on for a second here. It doesn't say she didn't know. It doesn't say, like, we wouldn't have put it in. We would have allowed people to reach the conclusion by writing something else, right? One of the things that's missing is we don't have a scapegoat. You know, a good political communicator would be pointing the finger somewhere else so fast your fucking head would spin. You know,
I think it would be pretty easy to say, we all know AHS has been pretty chaotic, and we all know that there's been troubles along there. But a lawyer's going to say, you can't, your fucking mind. You can't
point the finger at AHS and its problems.
We're already in a situation where people are sending letters through lawyers. Like, this was a leak of a letter that Athana sent, basically with 44 pages alleging these things, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, as part of a dispute over her being terminated by AHS. So,
well, and that's just it too. Like, why terminate her? Like, why are you taking these types of actions in order to, like, if you're trying to protect yourself, you're doing the opposite of protecting yourself.
I mean, this is the other challenge with it all. And we really breezed past it, but apparently some of this was known a little bit earlier. These concerns were brought by the CEO of Alberta Health, Athana Metsalopoulos, to the board. The board was supposed to vote on it. The board was let go. She was let go. I mean, I'll just say, from inside government, sometimes these things happen because you're like, oh my Lord, this person's off their rocker. Now, that's not been my experience with Athana, just to be clear, but like, sometimes them doing these things is the thing that makes you say, okay, they got to go, right? But like, the combination of both her and the board, it's a little weird.
Well, you ever go fishing with dynamite?
No. I mean, does anyone do that? It's a pretty crazy thing to do.
It is a pretty crazy thing to do, but this is the political equivalent of going fishing with dynamite. Everybody who's touching this that's not guilty is getting hit with the dynamite.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody else is trying to, like, they didn't come up with any scapegoats. They didn't push any like, this just doesn't make any sense from a political point of view. I'm completely flummoxed by it. I'm also completely flummoxed by the apparent lack of ethics, which has to govern and govern. You know, government requires ethics, and the old Wild Rose used to rail against it, right?
Yeah.
And the Wild Rose crazies are now in charge, and now they think they get to rob the piggy bank.
Can I just say, like, can I just paint a picture of this not being the government's malfeasance? Can we throw that out there just so I can get it on the record?
Sure. What? Yeah. And when we're doing it, is the color of the sky pink?
All right. So obviously there were procurement challenges. Maybe they were isolated to one person. In terms of the board and the CEO, maybe the government had soured on the CEO. Maybe things were awkward. Maybe at that point the CEO starts trying to create almost a reason, like, look at this. This happens in jobs. I'm certainly not saying it happened here. Okay. Just want to be crystal clear on this. But then they say, oh, she's got to go. And so many people will know that Andre Tremblay is the Deputy Minister of Alberta Health, is the Administrator of Alberta Health Services, having replaced the board, and the interim CEO of Alberta Health Services.
Right? Do you think he gets all three checks? That's what I want.
It's like Pokemon. He's going to catch them all, right?
Right.
I know Andre pretty well. I worked with him for a long time. Pretty competent guy, I just have to say. But you could easily imagine where they say, oh, geez, well, she's got to go. So we will just replace her. And actually, Andre, we wouldn't mind you being the administrator too. Now, that's where it's a bit of a jump, like, why? But the minute you do that, half the board of AHS is deputy ministers, like colleagues of Andre. So at that point, do you not just say, well, that's an awkward situation, so we'd have to let half the board go anyways, so why don't we just make Andre in charge, you know? Charitable read. But that's my charitable read right now.
Yeah.
So if that's what happened, and that's how we ended up here, is that so crazy?
Yes, it is crazy. It is nuts. It is not the way that the things would go.
It's weird, for sure.
Because, you know, souring on the CEO is one thing. Souring on the board is another thing.
Yeah.
I've seen both of those things happen. And you know what? Ginning up a reason to hold on to your job is a skill I never acquired.
Yeah, that's a real failing of yours.
Yeah, it's a failing of mine particularly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this doesn't strike me as something that's ginned up to hold on to a job. This strikes me as something that is legitimate and real. And when you put everything else into that filter, then the legitimacy and the realness of this takes away from the capacity to say, this is something that could have happened through
Yeah, so let's just clean up what you said. Like when you say legitimate and real, we don't know what it is, but like we're saying there's smoke, it's strange, it's certainly not proper in terms of process and procedure, even if it's not illegal. That's what you mean in this case, right? Because we don't know enough to make the broader claim.
I see red
claim.
and blue lights. I see red and blue lights in the future here. Don't you?
No, Jesus Christ.
Perp walks.
Just stop.
You don't see that? Like in all seriousness.
We just don't know. No, I don't.
You're so afraid of getting sued. I've been sued. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
We're not doing that. Okay, so back to the situation. Like we're going to continue with our frame of like what should the government have done. So we talked a little bit about it. We did construct it. We talked about statement written by communicators run by lawyers versus statement written by lawyers run by communicators. Anything else you want to say on that before you want to say what this should have been?
Well, I think the question is really predicated on whether or not the premier feels she's innocent. We have stipulated as part of this program. For the purposes of this program, she's completely innocent. In which case, she needs to do more than just a simple tweet demanding that a report be laid upon her desk and that the Auditor General get involved. If there is no merit to the complaint, then there's no problem calling the police, right? Why wouldn't you call the police? Right? Call the fire down on your own hole, right? Like, let's go. Let's make sure that this thing is absolutely 100% clear. And it's not like they can be expected to actually finish the investigation before your next election anyways. There's only 2.5 years. I'm anticipating that it's going to take at least, 3-4 years to get through this, based on the current speed and progress of the RCMP on other investigations that are political in nature. This feels like it's, if the premier honestly didn't know what's going on, then she should be absolutely furious that one of her staff put her in a position where she could go down for it. A staffer's job is to protect the principal. And this is the exact opposite of protecting the principal. Allegedly.
So,
allegedly.
I mean, I think that you've unspooled a lot that's true there, right? I'm not so convinced I would call in the RCMP. I'm not really sure I want to create the precedent that whenever I'm accused of something, I'm calling in the RCMP.
You've been accused of things for the last 18 months. For the last 2 years, you've been accused of things. This is not new to be accused of things. Being accused of something that has this type of connotation is new. New. It is beyond the pale. $500 million worth of expenditures. One fifth of which, or 75 million of which, every Albertan knows was lunacy. This is the Tylenol, the children's Tylenol. It was absolute lunacy. Right. And now you put it all together and you tied it together with the red string, and it's not really that much red string.
Well, can I say this is actually what I think is one of the challenges that Danielle Smith has is let's just say something, and it doesn't even need to be like the biggest things that are claimed, right? With her staff and all of that. If this becomes a thing, if there are red and blue lights at any point, even if she was 100 miles away from this particular situation, the challenge she has between the hockey tickets and the Turkish Tylenol is that people are just they're gonna do the red string thing, and they're gonna say, well, like, look at all of these connections here. Like, it's way, it is character, it is known associates, right? Like, I mean, it's like one of those things in like a police procedural.
Exactly.
This is a known associate of Danielle Smith.
I said to a friend of mine today that everybody's going to get painted with the same brush, even if all they did was take a ticket to the box. They're going to be treated to whatever is found to be the worst sin committed by the cohort, right?
I mean, that's the risk, yeah.
Whatever the cohort has done to this stage, everybody who's going to be guilty of the same sin because they were playing for the same team.
I mean, Danielle Smith is very much in the splash zone. I guess we would both agree.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the challenge then is, let's just go back to this statement here and some of the conversation that was had. How do you get out of the splash zone in that situation? I don't think this statement does that.
No, the statement doesn't go nearly far enough. First of all, I think you need to make sure that you're painting a villain. Whoever the villain is going to be, there are two people in any good story. There is a protagonist and an antagonist. If you want to be the protagonist, you must define who the antagonist is. That is simple literature, reading your kids a story at night. There's a good guy and there's a bad guy.
Yep.
Right? You're going to tell a story to your kids in the car to make the long trip exciting. They're the good guys. There's a bad guy. Good guy who triumphs over bad guy. So Danielle did not set that up. She needed to have a bad guy, or at least a potential bad guy. And she didn't do that. And the second piece is she really didn't tell us much of a story at all, right? Remembering that this is one of our constant criticisms of Rachel Notley. We learn by stories, right? The story that is being told now by Naheed Nenshi isn't that good a story, but it's still much more of a story than Danielle Smith told us. Danielle Smith should have told us the story of a AHS that's out of control, an AHS that was in being run by people who didn't have the competence or the character to make sure that this type of stuff didn't happen. And, this is clearly an AHS problem. But I think that one of the reasons she didn't tell us this, Corey, and Corey, I can whisper it to you. It's not true. It's probably not true.
No. Listen,
it's probably not true. If you whisper something, you can't get sued for it, right?
Can I make a broader point?
Sure, that'd be great. Please.
Yeah. Can I make it broader?
Please.
When you are constructing a statement like this, one of the challenges you have is you worry about where it might go. And you don't want to put yourself into a corner. You don't want to make statements that you're then going to have to walk back, right? You're trying to make it durable because what they always say is it's the cover up that kills. But in this case, the broader point is if you say something and then tomorrow you have to say the opposite because you were just loose with your words, it starts to look like a cover up, even if it was just an accidental fuck up. So when I say it's the lawyers run by communicators, that's when language gets super tight, when it gets super specific. You can't say that. You can't say that. You don't know that for sure. You absolutely must stick to this line very carefully here. And so I've been on the inside there. You've been on the inside there. What often happens is you sit and you don't know where the next hit's coming from. You don't know what the next shoe to drop is. You don't know what information might be out there that you don't know. Or sometimes there is information out there that you do know and you don't know if anybody else knows it. And it creates very, very interesting, very narrow communications.
But for the purposes of this podcast, we were assuming she was innocent.
I still am.
I think. But if she's innocent, then she's not worried about the information that she doesn't know, because she knows that she hasn't done any. There's no wrongdoing on her behalf.
No. I disagree with that, because I think even if you're sitting there knowing you did nothing, listen, if the police came to my house today and said, "We want to talk to you about a bank heist that happened in downtown Calgary. Where were you at this time?" Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go on my way. And then it started to be reported out there oh, there's a bank heist, and it looks like Stephen Carter might be involved. And Corey Hogan's a known associate of Stephen Carter, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting out a statement, and I'm going to be I wasn't involved at all. Am I putting out a statement that says, and Stephen's innocent too?
No.
Right?
But just for the record, I'd have lawyered up really quickly instead. I'd be dollar bill Stern, baby. Lawyer.
Because I
lawyer.
Don't know.
Lawyer.
Because I don't know.
Lawyer.
So if
lawyer.
you're Danielle Smith,
lawyer,
you only know what you know.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
You don't know what other people are doing.
If you don't know what other people are doing and you think that they've been doing something wrong, that's where you're fucked. That's where you're fucked. Because
I'm fucked in this story too then. Because you clearly robbed that bank.
I obviously would rob a bank. I'm a bank robber.
Yeah.
Because my face is so,
so generic
white guy. It'd be could you imagine trying to pick me out of a lineup? They'd have 5 of us and we'd all look the exact same.
Yeah. Dominic Cummings would go down for your crime.
Dominic Cummings, yeah. Mike Bullard. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect Patsy then.
Patsy.
Yeah. Aaron O'Toole.
Aaron O'Toole goes down for this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's thousands of us.
But, so you do get in a place, but let's go back to this statement and dissect it. this to me shows it's a premier's office that doesn't feel fully in control of the issue, doesn't have a full sense of what the facts are, doesn't know what's going to get out there next. Yeah, that is how it's written right now.
Of
right?
course, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then, so allowing that statement to go out when you don't know what the next thing is, that's a problem, right? You can't, she's made it worse before making it better.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other challenge she has, because we've talked about just the words here, but this is the only thing she said on this.
Yeah.
That's the other challenge. My understanding is she was in Panama. She's now in Washington, D.C., right? She has made many statements about the U.S. tariff situation, both before and after. If you go on her feed, you'll see all of those have pictures, and they're designed to look big on the feed, and this one's designed to look small on the feed, right? And it's starting to feel a bit absurd. It's starting to feel a bit absurd that a $500 million allegation has only been addressed in this particular fashion, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those numbers that's so big, people have trouble processing the size of the challenge here.
Well, let's just say, for shits and giggles, you and I were involved in a fraud that had about $500 million.
Sure. Absolutely. Just allegedly.
Allegedly. First of all, we'd be small minnows, right? Yeah. We wouldn't be doing the whole thing. We're just going to get a small, what are we going to get? 2% each?
We're just going to wet our beak. Yeah.
2% each?
Absolutely. Yeah.
$10 million each we'd get. $10 million bucks.
Yeah.
We're not people who, we're not overly greedy. 2% feels good to us. Yeah. We'll take 2 points on the back end.
Sure.
Oh my God.
That's pretty modest. And that's $10 million, right?
Yeah, this is exactly, when it gets to numbers this big. And what do you think the profit line would have looked like on that $75 million Tylenol deal?
Yeah, well, let's not even bring that one in, right? We just don't know enough about it. But the point is,
I'm just saying, what does the profit line look like on that? What is the incentive?
It's got to be 100% margin.
At least 100%
Has to be
margin.
100% margin.
At least 100% margin.
Given that the government was over a barrel, wanted these things in a hurry, was willing to take these extraordinary steps, has to be.
Has to be.
And also, just looking at margins, pharmaceutical margins can be 90% in some cases.
Exactly.
Not usually for a commodity like Tylenol,
but this is just it. How hard is it to make, what is it, acetaminophen or whatever? What's in Tylenol?
That's Tylenol.
Yeah, I mean, how hard is it to make? It's nothing. It's nothing. This is a known compound that everybody's been making, and you just have to, holy shit, 75 million of it. I can't imagine how much real Tylenol you'd be able to buy for that. Just insanity to me.
A lot.
Just insanity.
Okay.
My point is just simply this.
Yeah.
That when you start to deal with numbers that are that large, the amount of incentive to actually
margin,
to start to behave or misbehave becomes insane. It is insane.
Which is why for contract, the bigger the contract, the more safeguards you put on it.
Right.
Absolutely. So
that's why you don't have people being directed from the premier's office to hand out
on $500 million contracts. Yeah.
I mean,
if that were to happen, but we don't know. I just want to be really clear on that, right? There are
I don't know.
A bunch of things that are stated. Nobody knows. But now the premier's office is going to have to deal with this. At the very least, there's going to be an auditor general report.
You know what, Corey?
At that point,
I think we've made a real mistake here.
What's doing this podcast?
I think we should have assumed that she was guilty. We would have been a little more careful. We might have been a little bit more careful with our words. But by presuming she was innocent, now we put ourselves in a real pickle.
Yeah, we've actually caused more problems that way. It's a great point. Okay, we touched on it briefly. The Nenshi response, which is almost like the Nenshi response came before the the premier's rejoinder, I guess we'll call it.
But the thing with the Nenshi response is the man has never found a way to say 2 words when 200 will suffice.
I think it was a soundbite.
Was
it
Jared Wesley who said that the definition of a real scandal is one that can be written in a single tweet?
Yeah.
And then he wrote the single tweet about this particular scandal. Yeah. And I don't have it in front of me. I don't want to misquote him. But it was a banger of a tweet. And I thought to myself, you know what? You know who should have written that tweet? Naheed Nenshi should have written that tweet. He would have had the ability to define this entire thing. I got a note from Christina Gray today, which makes no sense to me at all. This is a leader all the way issue. I got an email from Christina Gray that was paragraphs long explaining this whole thing to me. If you take paragraphs to explain this, you are losing this war.
Yeah, like Wesley's tweet, which I just pulled up here, is allegedly, so this is him stating, like, this is how you would summarize it in one tweet, to be the scandal, right? Jesus, we should have started with this. We should have started with this.
Well, do you want to start again?
Yeah, let's just, episode.
This is episode 8. Welcome to The Strategists, episode 1848G. I'm Stephen Carter, and with me, as always, Corey Hogan. Why don't we open up with that Jared Wesley tweet?
Yeah. Allegedly, Smith's staff pressured healthcare officials to approve over $500 million in private healthcare contracts to a businessman who bought them seats in NHL luxury boxes in return for the favor. Then Smith fired a CEO who tried to investigate. Pretty good. Way better summary than we did, gotta say.
I'll tell you,
Jared, much better.
If it's only they bought him seats for the playoffs, do you think that's all it is?
I mean, again, Carter, so careful. Tread careful here. Like, we just don't. But even that, like, those things are worth thousands of dollars, seats like that. Right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. But remember the profit margin.
So those are the allegations. And so this is the challenges that we're now facing here. Right? So here we are, right? We're now talking about Nenshi. Nenshi's response wasn't pithy. It was, however, I think, a pretty good prosecutorial laying out of the case.
Absolutely.
It was pretty good.
I think if we had 12 jurors in a box who had to pay attention, right, at the risk of the judge throwing them out and into jail for contempt,
okay,
I think those 12 people would have paid attention.
All right.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Tell me I'm wrong.
And your point about, like, the emails and all of this, it's true. And actually, I'll say another challenge people have with allegations of scandal like this is the longer your explanation, the more you come off like you've lost your mind.
Exactly.
Right? That you're just piecing together random things.
Exactly.
And, like, you're picking up this piece of the scandal and that piece of the scandal. And what Jared points out, I think rightly, is, like, when you can put succinctly and everyone, like, just sort of gets it, like, oh, that's it. Like, that's the scandal.
Well,
that's the real power.
And the power of this needs to be the defining factor, right? We need to learn from Pierre Poilievre on this, right? Pierre Poilievre has said, this is where, the carbon tax, and it's all been the carbon tax. And of course, the weakness of that is now the carbon tax is gone. But this scandal never goes away. This scandal is there for the remaining 2.5 years of Danielle Smith's tenure. And if you do this right, if you set this up properly, and you start just simply saying $500 million for a few hockey tickets and Lord knows what else, right? They got $500 million worth of contracts, Corey, for a few hockey tickets and Lord knows what else. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do. And in many ways, I think that Smith's tweet about defamatory allegations was aimed at an audience of one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't you. I think it was Naheed Nenshi. I think that she was trying to imply that she would sue Naheed for.
Oh, that would be spectacular.
Statements. I mean, it would be wild. You know what this scandal, this quote unquote, this alleged scandal needs, though?
What?
Nickname.
Oh, it needs a gate. I don't hate the gates, though.
Or I don't, it doesn't need to be a gate. It could be something like Smithbacks instead of kickbacks. That's not a good one.
It's not a good one. You know what? This is where we really need Zain. He can be pithy.
He can be. Can he? That's not been my experience.
Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
This is one of the joys of doing the Carter and Hogan episodes, right? Like, look at this sucker. Yeah. 39 minutes in.
39.
One take.
Yeah.
Killing it.
So much rich content here.
Oh, okay. God.
So where do the NDP go from here?
They need to start. They need to start over. They need to define this again and make this a Naheed Nenshi exclusive and just go at it every single day. And then when they get into the legislature, they got to go at it every single day. There is nothing else but this. There is no concern. Like today, there was an open house talking about the the coal mining on the eastern slopes. Interesting, fantastic. Another situation, I would totally be behind it. In fact, I'm behind it. I don't think that there should be coal mining on the eastern slopes of the Canadian Rockies. Does not fucking matter. Only thing that matters is Danielle Smith and her government gave $500 million worth of work to a company that in exchange, it appears, or the same company that gave them hockey tickets. And Lord NDP knows what else.
Figure out a phrasing that gives you that legal shield, and you use that exact same phrasing
every single
time. Like, you
time.
don't need to struggle the way Stephen and I are to talk about being allegations. Just find the way to say it and say it. Right?
Well, I think I said it better earlier.
You know.
But then I saw the look on your face. You went a little green.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I'm a little close to getting sued.
Well, this is a podcast that we're going to have to run by lawyers, but it's not like the lawyers are going to write the podcast. So,
we're going to run this by.
We're okay. No, we're not going to run this by lawyers.
You know who we should call? Jonathan Dennis.
I hear he's got some free time.
He's got some free time, and he's still a lawyer.
Casey, I guess.
Casey now, yeah.
Yeah.
I had difficulty with that switch.
Yeah, I know. Because you want to say, and the Sunshine Gang.
Yeah.
You hear it.
Exactly. Right? It makes it's hilarious.
Yeah.
We're of a certain age when we come up with Casey and the Sunshine Gang. How many people in our podcast listening group are actually
probably a lot of them. Yeah. That's just life. Hey, so, okay.
We should promote the Discord, though. We should promote, being a patron.
Yeah, $6, get the Discord. Have we done our
Discord is lit. You guys got to be on that.
Got to be on the Discord.
Yeah.
You got to find your way to the Discord. We're breaking stuff there all the time. Okay, so we got the Nenshi response. The NDP response, we're going to call it. We've got Smith in a bit of trouble.
Right.
How about the media? What do you do if you're the media? Now, where do you go?
First of all, let us give props to Carey Tate for breaking the story.
Once again.
For getting the information.
Because we did that, but we can do it again.
We're doing it again. We're giving props because props are free. And that's the type of stuff that we give away.
You know what?
Free shit.
Unlike the Discord, which is $6.
$6. Props are free.
Yeah.
The problem is, how much more can they continue to invest in it? It's the Globe and Mail. If this was Post Media, this thing would be over already. It's the Globe and Mail, so I suspect that we're going to see an awful lot more chasing by Carey Tate and her colleagues, and they're going to go after this like shit on a stick. No, they're going to go after this
Is that a saying that anyone has ever used?
No, I'm lost on my sayings. I don't know what idiom to use. Anyways, here's the thing. I think that they're going to continue. I think they're going to continue to do it, and they're going to continue to push, and they're going to find more stuff because I think, Carey Tate has been the one who's been the closest to this UCP government and seeing how they actually are working. And it's no surprise to me that she's the one who's broken the story.
Okay, you talked about one more thing I wanted to try to get in there, which is this is not the only thing that the UCP is dealing with right now, right? And so the coal mining issue is also getting pretty big. MLA's having to cancel coffees with constituents and whatnot because there's so many angry constituents out there.
Yeah,
who do not want to see
it's a 7-3 issue.
Yeah,
right. Like it is a big fucking issue, and Danielle has tried to hide it. Maybe tried too hard to hide it because she unleashed this AHS thing. But this is the coal mine stuff is huge. If they go ahead with this, they're going to have a lot of angry constituents. And I don't know that the NDP can win in every place it's going to be angry, but I suspect that they can win in some. And I don't know if you followed the last election, Corey. But it was pretty close.
Pretty close.
It's pretty close. A few hundred more votes here, a few hundred more votes there. Suddenly, Rachel Notley's not practicing law. I'm just saying.
Well, it's interesting to me because you wouldn't normally think that the ridings on the Rockies, with the exception of Banff Canmore or Banff Cochrane, whatever it's called now, right, isn't play. But this could at least mess things up for the UCP in some challenging ways, right, where they're playing some defense. And certainly it's one of those issues that while it's intensely felt in the communities that are affected, it's also felt in the cities. Like, you don't have to work real hard to walk around Calgary and see signs where people are mad about this. One of the reasons people like to live here, for those of you not here, is the proximity to the Rocky Mountains and the landscapes and the outdoor living. Never been my thing.
No,
I'm not
or,
really
or
sure why I'm
Zane's.
here.
I mean,
but
maybe that's why Zain can't record. Maybe he's lost in the Rockies.
Maybe
he would be having a hard time finding his way out.
He would. You know what? It's both not at all likely, but very likely if he tried.
Yeah, exactly. I heard one time he went to Canmore. I was worried for him.
I mean, yeah, Canmore is like a city, but even then I am worried.
They still call it the town of Canmore, hey?
Do they?
What a fraud.
They're trying.
What a fraud. It's a city for sure.
It's a city for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we didn't say anything substantive about coal mining, but...
it's bad.
Okay.
There you go.
Strong ending.
Oh, is this the end?
I mean, do you have anything else to say?
I thought you looked good tonight.
Thank you. I'm not returning that compliment. Just
I'm wearing my sweater.
Oh, is that what that is?
Doubles down, his mom is proud. The currency, he's really loud. He's Carter. He's pretty smart, kinda knows it. Disdain for Carter, he always shows it. He's Hogan. He's Hogan. Carter and Hogan, they're here's for you. To give you the takes, and you're here for them too. Zane's not here,